So the first Ashes test is just around the corner, and the Aussies have announced their squad for the first test in Perth today. It is a team of 15, which doesn't include Pat Cummins, who I'm sure will be coming back in at some stage through the series, but we already know he's ruled out of that first game. Barring any last-minute injuries, you can probably rule out Sean Abbott and Brendan Doggett from playing in that first test. And you can probably rule out Josh Inglis as well, with Carey the frontline keeper, and there's probably a couple of batters ahead of him as well. Marnus Labuschagne has obviously been in unbelievable form in the Shield. He's a lock, regardless of where he bats, he will be in the 11. And that really is the major question mark here, is what does the 11 look like for the Aussies in that first test? And so it really is around the three key players here, which is Jake Weatherald, Cameron Green, and Bo Webster. And it's probably likely to be a battle between Webster and Weatherald as to who plays in this first test. Because if Australia do decide to go with a specialist opener like Jake Weatherald, Marnus Labuschagne probably bats at 3, and then you've only got a slot for an all-rounder at 6. But we have seen both Green and Webster play in the same team before, so if they don't decide to go with Weatherald at 3, Marnus probably opens, Green bats at 3, and then Webster at 6. So that's sort of the two makeups of the 11 that we're likely to see for Perth. But what do you think's going to happen? And this is where the domestic competition becomes really important, because next week on the 10th of November is when the next Sheffield Shield round, first class cricket, gets underway. And it could honestly be a bat-off, as we've seen almost every other year, as to who is going to be selected in that team. But if Jake Weatherald does make 100 in the Shield next week, do you pick him for that first Ashes test? And likewise, if both Green or Webster fail with a bat, does that put one of them behind the other? So it does make it tricky for the Australian selectors to decide on who they're going to pick and what the makeup of the 11 looks like. And knowing the Australian selectors, this is something they're probably going to keep really tight right up until that toss in Perth. So we might not even know who's playing up until the day of. So Australian 11 aside, England are also going to have some problems coming into this first test. They just had one of the most woeful ODI performances I've seen with the bat in a long time. Granted, they probably could have eked out a win at the end, but Australian conditions are going to be quite similar, I think, to what they faced in New Zealand. Yes, it was a one-day series, not a test series, but if the ball's moving and you're struggling with that, you're going to obviously struggle with the ball moving off the pitch and in the air, which is what we'll get probably in Perth. I think it'll suit England's bowlers as well. They'll have a lot of pace. They'll have hopefully some assistance of the movement in the air, and it could be quite a low-scoring test series. I can't see a way that we actually get a draw here unless there is sufficient rain for a lot of days. So it's likely going to be, a 3-2, 4-1 situation, whichever way you put it, for whoever is the winning side. But next week, I'll have some proper Ashes predictions when we're just a week out from the big game, where I'll go through sort of who I think is going to win every test, where the key battles are going to be won and lost, and hopefully something interesting. So that is basically it for today. Just wanted to give you a quick cricket update. Obviously the Ashes, I'm sure you're all aware of everything, but it's nice to discuss. Let me know who you think is going to be in the 11 down in the comments below. And of course, we do also have Cricket 26 coming soon, so I'm going to play through all sorts of things with that. And we'll talk a bit more about the Ashes next week, where I'll go through my full predictions of what's going to happen, run scorers, wicket takers, series scoreline, all that jazz. So stay tuned to see that. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you all later. Goodbye.